Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, December 17th. It's December 13th, December 3rd. I apologize. If you're just tuning in, we just finished going over the NFL Power Rankings. The NFL Power Rankings for Week 14 after a crazy Week 13, but we're going to go over Week 13 here. Winners and losers from another wild week in the NFL coming up in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, December 3rd. But like I was saying, we're going to start off our recap of the week, as always, with our winners and losers. Top 5 winners this week. We got a bunch of players who had huge weeks, a bunch of players who really showed out. Starting at number 5, it's Jerry Jeudy on Monday Night Football. This is why we wait to do our winners and losers until Tuesday, because stuff like Monday Night Football can happen. A performance like Jerry Jeudy's, where he goes for 235 yards and a touchdown, the single best revenge game in the history of wide receivers in the NFL. The most yards against your team that you just came from in the history of the NFL. A massive performance for Jerry Jeudy in a revenge game, one that he was looking forward to. He taunted the crowd on. He moved from 30th in receiving yards in the league this season all the way up to 5th. That's how huge of a performance this was. Now you can take a look at that and say that's how close 30 is to 5. 235 yards is generally 2-3 games worth of performances, right? Since Jameis Winston has come in, he has almost 15% of his entire career yardage. Just since Jameis Winston has taken over at quarterback, he has really taken a huge step up since Deshaun Watson went down. Jerry Jeudy is our 5th biggest winner of the week. He goes out there and dominates a game that he said he would against a really good defense and a really good cornerback in Pat Surtain. At number 4, the 4th biggest winner of the week, it's Saquon Barkley. It was looking like it was going to be a dud, the battle between Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, but the very last minute, when it mattered the most in the 4th quarter, Saquon Barkley breaks off huge run after huge run, gets into the end zone for a touchdown yet again. Saquon puts his name in the MVP ring. What a massive, massive performance for him. He's our 4th biggest winner because you can make the argument now that he has moved ahead of Lamar Jackson in the MVP ladder. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's actually happened. I still think Josh Allen is the MVP right now, but a very close second is Saquon Barkley. The numbers he's been able to put up this season, he is on pace to break the all-time scrimmage yards and rushing yards record, and he is incredible at football. It's so much fun to watch a guy like that go to work, and you don't get to see it too often. Saquon Barkley is the 4th winner of the week. And number 3, we're going to go to a group of guys. Number 3 winner of the week are former bust quarterbacks, right? We talk about a guy like Bryce Young, who was thrown to the curb, who was benched earlier this season. People said he was done in the NFL. I'm not saying that I'm innocent of that. I thought he was done. He was playing atrociously. He couldn't get the ball out. He couldn't handle pressure. He was not able to throw the ball over the middle of the field that consistently. He wasn't moving out of the pocket like he was in college. He wasn't able to hit all the throws that he was in college. But now we take a look at what he's done. Ever since he's come back into the starting role, the Panthers not only have completely turned it around, but he has as well. He has earned a spot in the franchise quarterback room. He has earned a spot next year to be the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, and he should have won that game for them. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Adam Thielen caught that ball. It was a touchdown. The Panthers should have won that game, and I cannot believe that that is the way it ended. Now, obviously, that was to go into the half, but still, an extra 4 points would have won you a game there, most likely. You never actually know how it goes. But outside of that, The other bust quarterback I want to talk about, or bust quarterback I want to talk about, guys like Sam Darnold, who continue to throw and play great football in a new home. Anthony Richardson, in his second year, just has a game-winning drive this week against the Patriots. These are guys that the league has chewed up, spit out, given up on, but they're playing great football right now. And I think they deserve their time in the spotlight. They are the third winner of the week. Our number 2 winner, another MVP caliber performance, it's Josh Allen. It's not just for what he did on the field, but also what he did off the field. He got engaged this week, and then he became the first quarterback in NFL history to run, catch, and throw a touchdown in the snow, in a torrential snowstorm, a blizzard, if you will. He went out there, and he won the game for the Buffalo Bills. Now, a lot of things went right for the Bills. The 49ers couldn't get anything going offensively, defensively, but what Josh Allen was able to do, that special play on the lateral that him and Amari Cooper connected on, that was one of the more exciting plays in all of the NFL this season. That was a massive play, a massive moment for Buffalo, a massive moment for Josh Allen, and I cannot wait to see what happens the rest of the year. He is my MVP right now. It's really getting close, though, with Saquon Barkley right behind him, but he continues to play great football when they need him to, and they're got a real shot at getting that bye in the AFC. And at number 1, our number 1 winner of the week, it's Russell Wilson. I mean, how could you give it to anybody else? He goes for 400 yards, a resurgent game, his first real incredible game since leaving the Seahawks. He goes and drops 40 points on, yes, a bad Bengals team, but he rebounds. His first drive ended in a pick six. Probably could have been a pass interference on that, but they didn't call it. It ended up being a pick six. And instead of going back and trying to, fix his mistake by being too aggressive, he dinks and dunks. He does what he needs to, hits a couple of big plays, and he wins the game, drops 40 points on a bad Bengals defense. But Russell Wilson, over 400 yards, over 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He does what he has not been able to do since leaving Seattle and puts together his best performance. I'm curious to see what the future is for him. He's on that 1-year minimum deal. I'm curious to see if Pittsburgh re-signs him, what his market is like in the future. He's got a lot of option after what he's done this week and the rest of the season. But Russell Wilson is the biggest winner of the week. Jerry Jeudy, Saquon Barkley, bust QBs, Josh Allen, and Russell Wilson, all winners this week. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the other side of the coin, the losers. 5 winners, there has to be 5 losers here. We're going to talk about those coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the winners from Week 13 in the NFL. In this segment, we turn our attention over to the losers, the loser side of the coin here. We got 5 of those coming up next, but in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those 2 things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, December 3rd. But like I was saying, in this segment, we are going to get into our losers here on the other side of the coin. 5 winners, 5 losers. At number 5, we have those Miami Dolphins. They went into this weekend, trying to prove that they can play in the cold, trying to prove that, it's just a narrative. It's not true. They looked cold out there. They really did. They looked uncomfortable. They looked cold. They brought so much heating equipment with them. It did not matter. Tua could not get the ball to the places he needed to get it to all game long. He was inaccurate. The rest of the Dolphins team had some trouble with drops. It just was not the way that it needed to go. They missed some tackles. It was cold for them. No, it was cold outside. There's no doubt about that. But the Dolphins needed to go and prove a narrative wrong, and they could not do that. The Dolphins go in and reinforce what everyone's been saying about them. They're now 0-8 in games where it's below freezing. And when Tua's at the helm, it's an issue. They need to figure it out by the time playoffs come around, because they're not going to be hosting. They're going to be going most likely somewhere cold. It's not super warm like it is in Florida everywhere. They need to figure it out. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know where they're going to go. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. That was a brutal, brutal loss for them. They lose a lot of ground in the AFC playoff race. They're a big loser this week. They're at number 5. At number 4, our fourth biggest loser of the week, it's Justin Tucker. How about him? He came into the year as the most accurate kicker in the NFL. He no longer holds that title. He's still one of the best kickers in the history of the NFL, but as we talked about when we talked about the Ravens in our power ranking segment, they have lost all 5 of their games by a grand total of 22 points. In those games, in all 5 of those games, Justin Tucker has missed a total of 22 points. So they would be even in their 5 losses if he had made all of his kicks. Now, that's a big if. Still sucks, because this is a Ravens team that you can look at and objectively say this is a good Ravens squad. They have Lamar Jackson playing like an MVP candidate, Derrick Henry playing like an offensive player of the year candidate. You have a defense that's really started to step up, especially as of late these last few weeks. This is a Ravens team that is playing some of the best football of Lamar Jackson's career. And yet they're losing more games than they have in a long time. And that's because they don't have what they usually can rely on in Justin Tucker. There are a lot of issues with this team. There are a lot of issues with the way that it is going, and I just don't see a way that Justin Tucker doesn't lose them a game. He's been one of the worst kickers in all of football right now. They need to figure it out. I don't think they can cut him. I think that would be a huge mistake. But they need to figure out something. They need to figure out what's wrong with him, because they're running out of time. It's going to cost them big in some big games going forward. Our number 3 loser, though, it's the Bengals. I mean, look what you're doing to poor Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow goes out there. He does everything you need him to do. Joe Burrow plays incredible football. He goes for another massive game. He's putting up MVP numbers. And you lose. Once again, the offense puts up 38 points. The second time that's happened in a loss this season. They put up 33 plus points in 6 games this season. They've lost 4 of them. We went over this stat. We can keep going back. They're putting up enough points that they should be winning by all historical precedents, and they are not winning. It is awful. It is disgusting. That defense needs to play any sort of defense at all. The defensive coordinator needs to be fired. They need to figure something out, because they cannot go into next season like this. They have eliminated themselves from what could have been a very special Joe Burrow year. It's just not happening. And that offense is not going to be as explosive next season. They won't have T. Higgins most likely. They still need to get Jamar Chase a contract. He's going to be more expensive now. This is just not working out the way that the Bengals hoped it would at the beginning of the offseason. Everything is going wrong for them right now, and they are about to implode very fast. They need to get a good draft, and they need to figure their stuff out on defense right now. Bengals are the number 3 loser. Our number 2 loser is the Falcons, and Kirk Cousins more specifically. There's a real chance Kirk Cousins gets benched, and I would not be angry about it. This is a Falcons team that is falling and falling quickly. They had a huge lead in the division after taking the second of 2 games from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They get blown out by the Broncos. Then they lose this week to the Chargers. It has just not been their year. Every time they seemingly went in this year, right? They went all in. They got the big pass rusher. They got some pressure this week. The defense finally played good for the first time. But every time the defense finds a way to play good football, the offense falls flat on its face. It happened week 1. It's happened now in week 13. Every other week, the defense has not really played great football, and the offense has been pretty solid. Sometimes it's both that suck, but there has yet to be a game this season where both of them play consistently good. It has not happened. They need it to happen. They need to turn it on right now. I don't know what's going on with the Falcons, but they cannot play together as a team. It's like they focus on one side of the ball in practice, and the other side is like, you did fine last week. You'll be okay. It doesn't work that way, and I'm sure that's not what they're doing, but it's just a really, really dangerous way to play football, and you're seeing them really fall apart for it. The Falcons at number 2 for the biggest losers. And the biggest loser of the week, it's the San Francisco 49ers. There's not really another way to put it. They not only got absolutely thumped on the road in Buffalo, in a snow game, a game that they desperately needed to win to keep their playoffs hopes alive. They're still in it, technically, but it's a lot harder to get in now, especially after the Seahawks got a win this week as well. They could not get anything going offensively, and more than that, they lose not just one, but their two starting running backs. Christian McCaffrey, who they finally got back, goes down yet again. Jordan Mason goes down. They're down to Isaac Guerrero. Fred Warner's been playing through a broken ankle all year long. He's not playing his best. This is a team that just has everything going wrong for them right now. Brock Purdy not playing his best football. The wide receiver core is decimated. Debo has seemingly fallen off the face of the earth. I don't know what they're doing. They're not getting him the ball. I'd like to see him get a couple more running back snaps, especially now with both of those running backs gone. Get him some more touches. He's a guy that can be dynamic for this team. They're just not using him very well. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but this is a 49ers team that is falling apart at the seams right now. They're very expensive. This was kind of their last real year as a cheap kind of team, I would say. They're a very expensive team, but they're not paying a quarterback. You're going to have to pay Brock Purdy soon, and that's going to make this window almost impossible to stay open for much longer. Not sure how they're going to do it, but they need to figure it out now. They're the biggest loser of the week. The Dolphins. Justin Tucker, the Bengals, the Falcons, and the Niners, the 5 biggest losers of the week. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on winners and losers, but we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we finish up our show with some fantasy football advice. We get to the final week of the regular season for a lot of leagues, maybe this week, maybe next week, but it's a very important game. We have a couple of guys you should target on the fantasy football waiver wire. All of these guys have less than 60% ownership on most leagues. We'll take a look at who they are, who you should target, coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.